Welcome to Legendary Drops. My name is Ian, and I am suffering a personal crisis. There isn't a moment that goes by that I don't think about Diablo IV. It's on my mind constantly. Blizzard, you said it's cold, so that means it's done, right? You can just give it to me, right? Guys, I've tried everything that I can think of, okay? I went and played Path of Exile. I'm not an engineer. That's far too much for me. I went and played Last Epoch. Great game. Review on it coming eventually. But it's still not the same. I've gone back to play Diablo 2 and 3, and while they are great games, it still doesn't scratch that itch the same way. So the only thing that I can think of, the only thing I think I can do is just talk about my problems with you. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about Diablo 4. We're going to scorn it for not being out yet. We're going to talk about what's missing from Diablo 4, and that's classes, my friend. Quite a few. When you go back and you play some of the older games, you quickly realize there are a lot of classes that didn't make it into Diablo 4. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about those classes. We're going to talk about their origins, and we're going to talk about whether or not we think some of those classes may show up later in future expansions of Diablo 4. All right, so the first on the list is the Amazon. The Amazon was featured in Diablo 2 and in Heroes of the Storm. The Amazon is a versatile ranged fighter that can use bows, crossbows, spears, and javelins to take out their enemies from afar, dealing massive damage. She also has several abilities that allow her to move around the battlefield pretty quickly and effectively, making her a great choice for players that prefer a more mobile playstyle. The Amazon is kind of a class of risk and reward, as it does a ton of damage with its poison and lightning abilities. However, you have to be pretty accurate to make sure you're landing those hits because she doesn't throw those spears very quickly. The origin of the Amazons trace back to a story of love lost between a first-generation Nephilim named Philios and an angel named Lycander. During Lilith's rampage against Inarius, many angels retreated back to the high heavens, Lycander being among those who returned to heaven. Philios, not wanting to lose his love, utilized an artifact of unknown origin called the Sightless Eye to remain in contact with her while she remained in heaven. Over time, Lycander grew worried that the high heavens were going to discover Philios, so she forbade him from using the Sightless Eye any further. Philios, obeying Lycander's wishes, buried the Sightless Eye on the Isle of Scovos and mourned the loss of his love. Years later, Philios moved on and eventually fell in love with a human woman named Ascara, and they had twin daughters. After Philios passed away, those twin daughters left to the Scovos Isles to reclaim the Sightless Eye that their father had once buried, claiming it as their birthright. While the Sightless Eye could no longer make contact with the high heavens, it did show visions of the future, visions where they led an empire. The more mystical of the two sisters founded what would become the Oracle Caste, who would use the Sightless Eye for many years to guide society and assist in ruling over the Scovos Isles. The other twin, who was more of a warrior than a seer, created an order dedicated to the protection of the Isles and any of those that came after them. And so, the Ascari people were born, shepherded by the oracles, but protected and defended by the Amazons. Hundreds of years later, the Sightless Eye would end up being stolen by a renegade group of Ascari, named the Sisterhood of the Sightless Eye. That group would go on to become the rogues that we are all familiar with. Among their ranks is the rogue that we play in Diablo 1, and of their descendants in Diablo 4. I don't really foresee the return of the Amazon in Diablo 4 specifically because, well, we have the rogue, and the rogue's bow style is really similar to that of the Amazon in Diablo 2. Now, if Blizzard does plan on bringing the Amazon back, it's probably going to come with a major rework, something that's going to be somewhat similar to Diablo 2, but have a completely different spec alongside of it. See, they can keep the javelins and the spears, but they're probably going to have to go a different direction with the bow. All right, now on to the Paladin, the hero most likely to return in Diablo 4. The Paladin is a holy warrior who specializes in close combat and defensive abilities. He is a great choice for players who wish to be able to take a lot of damage, but deal it out in return. With a focus on offensive and defensive capabilities, as well as the auras provided by personal and party-related buffs, the Paladins utilize the power of light and an assortment of weapons to be able to take down the servants of hell. As stated before, the Paladin is an incredibly unique character, and due to its direct involvement with the Church and Inarius, the Paladin, or Crusader, is most likely, most probable, the one to see at some point in Diablo 4. The Paladin and Crusader are typically shown as a ramping class, very slow ramping class. They don't really deal a lot of damage at the very beginning, however, they become some of the most strongest characters to use in the endgame. The story of the Paladins is an interesting one. The Paladins have been known to be an integral part in the battle against the Burning Hells, and made their first appearance in Diablo II, with another variant, the Crusader, appearing in Diablo III. The origin of the Paladins can be traced back to the ancient city of Zakarum, located in the eastern region of Sanctuary. The Zakarum faith was a powerful religion that spread throughout the land, and its followers believed that the power of light would bring peace and prosperity to the world. The Paladins were the most dedicated and skilled warriors in the Zakarum faith. They were trained in the use of swords, shields, and holy magics, and they were charged with defending the faith and its followers from the forces of darkness. However, as the years passed, the Zakarum faith became corrupted by the influence of the demon Mephisto. The religion began to twist and distort, and the Paladins found themselves at odds with their own leaders. Despite this, there were Paladins who remained true to their beliefs, and many of them continued the fight for the cause of the light, now known as the Crusaders in Diablo III. Out of all of the classes that I mentioned in this video, I believe that the Paladin is the one that's the most likely to see a return in Diablo IV, specifically because of the direct involvement of the Church and Denarius in this story. Also, on top of that, looking at the rest of the classes that we have available to us, there's not really a lot of like heavy armor users, a lot of knight classes, and that's something that's missing from this game. So here's to hoping that we get to throw some hammers. Now on to the Demon Hunter. The Demon Hunter is an agile class and a master of ranged combat, using a variety of traps, gadgets, crossbows, and bows to take out enemies from a distance. The Demon Hunter is unique in that it actually had a resource balancing mechanic, where the player had to generate and use both hatred and discipline, which made for a little bit more complex gameplay in comparison to some of the other classes. However, by the time you got to endgame, you were wearing set gear and likely just spinning to win without any regard for resources. The origins of the Demon Hunters can be traced back to the time of the Great Conflict, a titanic battle between the forces of heaven and hell that raged on for centuries. During this time, a group of humans known as the Viz-Jiktar became a group of rogue mage hunters, routing out all demonic corruption. As the Great Conflict came to an end, the Viz-Jiktar began to fade from memory. However, their legacy lived on, and over time, a new generation of demon hunters emerged to take up the mantle. These new demon hunters were drawn from all walks of life, but they shared one common goal: to rid the world of demonic forces that threatened it. They trained in the use of ranged weapons, developing unique skills and abilities that allowed them to track and take down demons with deadly precision. The Demon Hunter is an interesting prospect for Diablo IV because it does have a lot of unique mechanics to it, but I don't feel like it's unique enough to differentiate itself from the Rogue. The Rogue's teleporting abilities, ability to throw traps on the ground, its ranged combat, use of bows, all feels really familiar to the Demon Hunter from Diablo III. Now, like the Amazon, if Blizzard does want to put this class into the game later, they would actually have to do some pretty significant reworks, but there are some things that do make it feel much more unique than the Amazon does. So, we'll see. Now on to our next class, the Monk. One of the key features of the Monk class is its ability to move quickly and dodge attacks. The Monk has a number of skills that allow it to dash and teleport across the battlefield, making it incredibly difficult for enemies to catch. The Monk specializes in martial arts. It has the powerful ability to summon a spirit ally that mimics their attacks, summons the elements to their aid, and utilizes mantras to increase damage, speed, defense, and provide healing. Among Sanctuary's most deadliest of warriors, the monks of the Soptev faith train their bodies and minds to become the utmost holy warriors for the land of Ivgarad. Soptev involves the worship of 1,001 gods and goddesses. These gods are divided into gods of chaos and gods of order. Within the cloisters of the patriarchs, the monks endure harsh trials both physically and spiritually, proving their devotion and attaining unmatched focus in battle. Daily ritualistic cleansings help the monks purify their spirits and overcome corruption that gnaws at the hearts of all men. In the pursuit of martial perfection, they also hone their legendary balance and clarity, skills that allow them to master both unarmed and armed combat. After a lifetime of preparation, anointed monks are permitted to leave the monasteries to serve the decrees of the patriarchs. The emblem on the forehead of all monks marks them as survivors, achievers, and pillars of their society. Now, I don't think the monk is a major candidate to return in Diablo 4, but I do think that there is a solid possibility for it. Though it does have some derivatives of the Paladin class or the Crusader class, it really does have a completely unique play style to it, and there really isn't a whole lot of other classes that play similarly. Now, we don't really see a lot of influence from the monks in Diablo 4, but as the game progresses, as new areas become available to us, maybe we end up visiting the area that the monks are from, and then that's where we go and recruit them from. I'm really hoping that in the future, with a lot of the expansion material that we see, that we actually unlock new zones or new nations for us to be able to visit and experience the story through. Now on to our final class, the Witch Doctor. The Witch Doctor can summon and control a variety of creatures, including zombie dogs, gargantuan beasts, and swarms of insects. These summoned creatures can be used to distract enemies and deal damage, while the Witch Doctor themselves uses hexes to weaken enemies and then pummel them with fire, poison, and spiritual damage. The Witch Doctors are a mysterious tribe of spiritual warriors that use magic and voodoo to combat evil. They are skilled in the art of curses, hexes, and healing, and they often rely on the use of fetishes and talismans to aid them in battle. Witch Doctors are often seen as eccentric or unpredictable, however, they are mostly a peaceful tribe and a powerful ally in the fight against heaven and hell. Now, the Khazra, or the Goatmen that we normally have seen throughout all of the Diablo games, are actually descendants from the Witch Doctor's Umbaru tribe. During the Mage Clan Wars, part of the Umbaru tribe ended up leaving the tribe, and eventually came in contact with the Vajari. The Vajari used the disconnected Umbaru's latent spiritual ability to infuse them with demonic possession, slowly turning them into the violent Khazra that we know today. The Witch Doctor's appearance in Diablo 3 is a direct result of the growing issues with the Khazra, as they are there to rid Sanctuary of their once peaceful clansmen. Alright, so that's it. That's all of the classes in Diablo that are not in Diablo 4, and as you can see, there's quite a few of them. Witch Doctor being my favorite, but I do believe the Paladin is the most likely to see a return in Diablo 4, just because of the involvement of the church and where the story's going so far. I like the idea of Blizzard bringing back old characters, old heroes, fan favorites. However, I really want to see them make some new classes too. I like the idea of a warlock being in the game, and I've also seen some things in the community talking about the potential for a Dark Knight or a Death Knight, which I think would be really cool as well. Also, something I think they're probably going to do is add old class archetypes to current classes that are in the game. Maybe give the rogue the ability to use a javelin or something like that. I think they're going to get creative. I think they're going to add a lot of content, because as we're seeing how popular the game is already and it's not even out yet, if this stays the way it is and that many people end up buying the game, that many people end up playing and interacting with the game, that means Blizzard's going to make a lot of money, and when Blizzard's profiting, well, they're going to pump money back into it to make sure that farm keeps running. This isn't one of my normal videos. I usually don't talk about class breakdowns or lore or really anything like that. Usually it's just general opinions about games or talking about community topics, so if you guys like this, let me know. I was kind of low on ideas at the time, and this is just something that kind of popped into my head. Yeah, so just drop a comment down below if you guys enjoyed the video, and also let me know if there's any classes you would like to see in Diablo 4. The cat's sleeping, so I can't do the normal cat thing, sadly. I'm not going to wake him up. We'll be nice to him today. But thank you guys for watching the video. There's a podcast on this channel every Sunday at 2 p.m. PST. Come by and check out the live streams. I stream 2 to 3 days a week, depending on how work is going. Still pumping out a video every week and having a good time. Outside of that, be cool, stay righteous, stay safe. Peace.